Excited to have everybody here. This is part 3 on our Power Panel series, where what we're doing is highlighting young, experienced, but professionals from our culture to highlight the different aspects of cultural power, cultural capital, specifically Black cultural capital. And so this part 3 on the series, where we've gone personal power, social power, this is now economic power. And we have Mr. Corey Wright, we have Ms. Guyleigh Johnson, and Mr. Trevor Silver, who've all found ways to mobilize, not just in creating a brand, but multiple aspects to these brands where they've actually been able to create economic sustainability. So what does that mean? Been able to make money moves and doing it consistently. And so I'm excited because they'll each be able to share some of their vision, some of their stories, and the ways that they've been able to make these moves, but also highlighting some of the realities of navigating these spaces and the challenges that it can come, because we, as people of African descent, experience things differently, especially here in Nova Scotia, but across the country, because we're not all here locally, as I'll let Guyleigh speak to a little bit later on, and Corey as well, because we're spread out. Before we dive too much into this, because I'm always excited, especially when we have a powerful guest like this evening, but I really just want to do housekeeping. So first part of the chats, I got us going. Throughout the evening, we're going to make sure that we have certain questions that we'll ask, and it's an opportunity for the panelists to also respond to attendees. So make sure that you can stay active in the chat. It will only be myself, Trevor Silver, Guyleigh Johnson, and Corey Wright, whose faces will be on the screen as they're speaking. We'll make sure that each person gets highlighted. We are now recording, so we're going live, and we're going to begin this whole thing. But the housekeeping rules: we have to be respectful. We're respecting the space, but we're respecting each other, because this is an environment where we need to learn, right? And it's also an environment where we need to take action, because we all have a duty of care. Which brings me to the next point. I want to do our ancestral as well as a land acknowledgement. Ancestral because we are African people. We are people of African descent, and especially here in Nova Scotia, so-called people that are indigenous African Nova Scotians have been in these lands for hundreds of years. And so it is specific that we also recognize that these are people that have been here. And if we zoom out, African peoples have been on this planet, right? On these continents for thousands of years, right? And so just trying to give cadence and respect to our ancestors, both here, the ones that have come before us, because we're all on the backs of our ancestors, and we all have magic. We all have lots of power. And so this is the opportunity that we call those that have come before us and those that are around us into the space. The second part, before we jump in, is the land acknowledgement. We are all here on unceded territory in Mi'kma'ki, except for our people who are in other places. But again, it's unceded territory. What does that mean? So treaties were drawn up about land rights and disputes, and they have been not maintained in good faith. And so the wider reality, or the real, is that we're all treaty people. So anyone that's going in any of these spaces in the Americas, especially, whether you're of African descent or not, you have a duty of care to move, to bring your best self, to collaborate with each other, be respectful, and always try to figure out how you can make this place a little bit better, when you leave than when you got here. So with that, I want to bring it in to a brief little introduction to each of the panelists before I hand it over and they can do it some more justice. So without further ado, I want to welcome each of our panelists, and more formally, I'll start it off with Mr. Trevor Silver. Trev, the head honcho, the CEO, everybody is aware, but you have a brand. It's not just apparel, and there's lots of message about collaboration, about community, education, being grounded in self, the values. So you're a man on a mission, and that mission is spreading across the provinces, and I'm very excited to have you as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, someone in the digital space, but very much somebody who has the hustle. And I appreciate you joining us today, this evening, Trevor. Ms. Guyleigh Johnson, I gotta formally welcome you here, an entrepreneur, an author. I don't have enough words, but a change maker and somebody who's really making waves, in a lot of different spaces, being able to, author books, artworks, the poems, being a creative, being able to express yourself and make sure that others see the value and pay the value is an art form in and of itself. So I'm very excited to hearing how you've cultivated these different opportunities, you know, and how you continue to shine. So thank you so much, Guyleigh, for joining us. And Mr. Corey Wright, I got to formally welcome you as well. Someone who wears many hats. We got the nonprofits, we got the for-profits, but you are social. I would say you're a social entrepreneur, you know, the founder, and I want to pass it to you shortly to give us the backstory, but the founder of organizations who are leading change and who are really focused on having impact in a lot of different spaces where we need it. So I very much so, I'm grateful for you joining us this evening, Corey. And I look forward to hearing more about your story. Guyleigh, if I could pass it over to you, highlight you for a little bit, just give you a few minutes to, you know, introduce yourself and the work that you do. Just give us some backstory, please.
For those of you that don't know me, I am an author, a spoken word artist, and I would say community advocate. I'm actually working on a couple of new projects that are going to put me in different avenues. I can't speak on any of them as of yet, but if you follow me this year, you're definitely going to see some transformational things.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Corey, Mr. Wright, so I'm going to have to pass it over to you, but I'll have to do some work and following that up. But please introduce yourself. Give us some more insight about yourself and the work that you're doing.
Corey Wright. Man, I'm just doing so much right now, but you know, I started basically with you know, as a recording artist. Now when I came home, because I was and just, you know, you're right, you do things, you use your mind, you create things. So I came home, I wanted to do music. I done it, but then so many other avenues for me. There's also those that don't want to do that. I'm working on another program as well to deal with like labor and construction, because it's also hard for individuals to, once they're released from prison, to even find some source of income that's legit. So I don't know, man, and in the midst of all that, doing music, family man, father 3, loving it, you know, I'm just me, bro. I'm just me. I need a twin, though, I'll tell you the truth. I need someone else to change.
Greatly appreciated. Trevor, if I could pass it over to you, please.
Okay, Trevor Silver from Northwestern, studying management currently. I started Trev Clothing, actually out of necessity, because my initial dream was to become a lawyer. Once I got to law school, I realized that it wasn't for me. So I had my first design was the balanced justice scale. So work, money, career, family, love, friendship. There was a heart on one side and money on the other. And we call it balanced success. So I started that, and I derived that from the justice scales. And with that design, I started Trev Clothing. It's not just my name, so it's an acronym for trust, respect, education, and value. So you got to trust yourself, respect yourself, educate yourself, value yourself, and others to succeed. So the brand's all about strong principles for success. And I initially wanted to push the brand as like a fashion brand, but then I seen the way that it could inspire and motivate others to pursue success for themselves. And it ultimately became more than what I initially thought it was going to be. And now it's able to inspire others, and it inspires me to continue to keep going. So I'm super glad that I switched from law school. Like at first I thought I'd have regrets, but in retrospect, it's the best decision I ever made. But if I didn't pursue that initial dream, I wouldn't have developed a new dream. And that's like what I'm currently on now. So whatever else comes, but this might evolve into something else. You never know, right?
Appreciate each one of you dropping the insight already, just a little bit of gems in the stories. All of you wear many hats, you know, and you're speaking about I think that the wider part of this journey of life, right? All of you spoken about, yeah, this is what I've been able to do, but there are next things. And for some people, for everybody, right? The unknown is it's scary. It's risk. It's uncertainty. It's uncomfortable. And so each one of you have found ways to create a brand. Each one of you have found ways to, not just create money, not just create, a product or service, but to create value. And that's something that other people are buying into, right? The same way as a brand. They believe in you. They believe in the message. They believe in the vision. And that's powerful because, when you're able to get this belief, that builds relationships. And you have all consistently found ways to build relationships, outside of the places where you're from, to move and travel around and build connections. And all those have led, to where you are today. So I want to dive in because a big part of success is being grounded, and being aware of yourself. So for that first question, when we explore, building your business or building your brand, value is one of those kind of buzzwords that a lot of people show. So for you, when did you realize that your vision and that you personally had value? And when that kind of light bulb went off, how did you go about taking action to create that? So I don't know who wants to dive in first.
I'll do that.
Okay, listen, take it. I'm gonna spotlight you.
All right. When I first realized I had value was in prison. As sad as it is and messed up as it is, it was actually inside. Like before I went to prison, I was in the streets and I was doing my thing. And for me, I was like, okay, this is where it starts and this is where it ends for me. I'm gonna die here. I love my block. I love myself. You're so smart. Why are you doing this? You're basically doing life on the installment plan. Hopefully this is better. Is this better? Because we
can hear you now.
All right, cool. Okay, cool. So I don't know how much you heard, but anyway, I'll go back a bit. My values started in prison. Before I went to prison, I thought, the streets, I was in the streets. I thought I was going to die there. That's where it was, and cool. And I was cool with it. I was happy. But I went to prison and talked to a few long-term offenders, lifers, and they're saying to me, man, you're too smart to be here. You're too smart to be here. I'm like, man, this is what it is, right? And I was ignorant to a lot of stuff. Like I've been in and out of prison. Well, I can't say in and out, but I did 2 prison terms. And before I did the first prison term, before I ever went away, I didn't even know where Cape Breton was. I knew it was in Nova Scotia. I didn't know where. I was 17, 18 years old, just wow, no value towards myself, nothing. But then I went inside, started strengthening my mind, my body, it's gotten them, in sync with one another. Playing chess with lifers, strategic games, cards, and just started, okay, something's got to give. Started valuing myself, build my body, build my mind, reading books, working out. So then I kept a certain kind of step to me. And then guys were saying, yo, how you do this workout? And a lot of people weren't helping others. So I decided that, I had a group of guys inside that I would actually train. There was 4 or 5 of us and I'm training them. And then I'm there's guys that didn't know how to write. So I'm writing letters for them. And, guys that didn't know how to read. So I'm reading for them. And it's what? I got so many people to help. I need to help. Okay, so how can I help? How can I help people? And I was like, okay, well, everybody knows me as, just the artist or the street guy. So in order for me to do this successful transition, I need to be the artist first because more people relate. But then as I'm on my journey, whatever happens, but it's always been the give back for me. And that's where I found my value at in prison. And once I came home, you know, opening the artistry, doing the music, then that led to pushing my brand in a clothing brand. And then that led to, okay, well, you know, there's so many people over here that that need help. Okay, now if I can put some tools in these people's tool belts and help them build a future for them, then that's even better. So now my value comes from just helping others. If I can't help somebody, I feel I'm failing them, and my value towards myself is depreciating because I can't help, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I appreciate those gems. And like I said, the flexibility, jumping on and off the camera, the audio continues. So that's the perseverance we need, sir. But absolutely, you know, being able to, you know, as you said, build yourself, build your mind, and being able to keep that step, but you're moving different, right? And throughout the course of that, you're building team, you're building community. So I'm very excited. I gotta stop myself. I'm like, I gotta pass it to Trevor and Guyleigh, but I'm excited to really build on that because those are some of the next parts of the conversation. Absolutely. So thank you for it. Guyleigh or Trev, that either one of you.
I would say 100% I agree with what you're saying, and even like you're a giver, and I feel like in life, if you guys can hear me, that like the more that you give, the more that you receive, and it's like you kind of give it in an unselfish way, and you're not giving just to receive, and people can, I feel like people can see that in you, and it makes it more genuine. So like you're not just giving to receive, and I feel like when you give, like the more you give in life, the more you receive, and that's one of the rules that I live by, and I find value can be derived from that, because even a lot of stuff you talk about, like the mind, body, and soul, like building yourself up while you're in prison, and like even for me is like just like in the world is I always go back to, like if I ever get stuck in life, I always go back to like reading books, learning something new, getting around new people, challenge myself to be around new people, because sometimes it's hard to get around people that you're not used to or that you're not comfortable with, because it's a challenge. It's like, oh, these people don't accept me, or oh, these people are like quote unquote better than me or something, and it kind of keeps you in that box of like the same friends or the same circle that you're used to. So it's, for me, it's like the value comes from being different. Like that's one of the things that I found my value would have came from, is doing different things. So I always try to go against the grain. It's like one thing I always tell my little cousins and my little brothers is like, how many millionaires do you know? And then they'll be like 0. And I'll be like, okay, how many people you know that read books? And then they'll say none. So I'm like, is there a correlation there? And then so for me, when I was in grade, like I think I was in grade 11 or 12, I read my first book, and it kind of changed my whole perspective on reading and understanding. Because you can download, like when you read a documentary or a biography, like for example, like Gandhi or Malcolm X or any of these people, you get to humanize the person. They're not this super like far away, like the person's not so far away, they're closer to you than you think, and you can be these people. It's just on you to get up and do the work. Like Malcolm X always talks about recreating yourself, and like he went from being a drug dealer and a pimp, going to prison, finding the NOI, Nation of Islam, and then becoming like one of the top ministers, and then continuing to grow and recreate itself and change and like go against the grain. And I feel like that's one of the things that I always try to do, is like not try to do and be like, I mean, I've experienced street stuff, but I always in the back of my mind was like, if I participate in this, this is what we're going to continue to do. But if I do something different, then I can lead a different way, and I could show a different way. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to law school, because it's like, there's no Black male lawyers from where I'm from. Like now there is, but back when I was coming up, it's like, there's no one to look up to for these things. So what else are we going to do? Like, we're going to do what we see. So with that, it was like, I wanted to be the person that I never had. And I pursued that. And then once I pursued that, and it evolved into something different. And then the value came from just creating, like being able to do different things, provide different things. And I feel like the value kind of comes from being able to like differentiate, like do, like when you learn how to do certain things that no one around you knows how to do, then they're going to call you for that stuff. Like say, for example, like me and 100 of my friends from North Preston, no one else knows how to make a website, but I know how to make a website because I built a brand and I built the website myself. They might call me up and be like, hey, can you make a website? Certain people I could be like, okay, I'll do that for you for free. Or certain people I could be like, I could charge you money, but the value will be, regardless, there's value there because I'm building a website for somebody. Even if I get paid, if I don't get paid, but the get back will be, if I do it for my friend, I'm showing them how to set themselves up so they can build their own business XYZ, and they could give back to somebody else, or later on they could give back to me, but I'm not looking for them to give back, but they have the potential to. Like some people can't really give back if they don't have the tools to give back, like Corey was saying earlier. And when you give someone the tools, then it's like, it's not to say, oh, if I give somebody the tools and then they run off and they never do anything for anyone else, or they never do anything for me, it doesn't matter. It's you give as much as you can give, and the value is going to eventually come back. And yeah, the people are going to, the people are like you. There's some people that appreciate and they recognize when someone put them on. So when you find those people, those are the people that are going to give back or pay it forward. And I find paying it forward is really, really important too. Like if someone does something for you, like even for me, like I would not have went to university if my cousin from the square didn't go to university. And me seeing him going to university allowed me to shake it off to myself and be like, man, if he can do it, I can do it. You guys both know Darrell Nelligan, like Corey and Guyleigh. So
Yep.
if he did not go to university, I wouldn't have went to university. But the fact that he went and did it, I was just like, whoa, damn, like we basically grew up together. So like, man, if you could do it, like I can do it. I know I could do it. And then for me, it kind of gave me that inspiration to be like, well, if I think like this, then my younger siblings are gonna do this. Like they're gonna follow suit. So like I got younger siblings. I'm not saying we're a direct correlation, but like they follow suit. Like when I have kids, my kids, the expectation might be to be like, hey, you want to go to university? And those talks are going to be early on. They're not going to be like self-directed like mine and Darrell's experience, where we're just like, okay, we're going to do this because we want to do this, not because our parents like our parents didn't give us the option. Our parents never even thought about college or nothing like that. But it's, for us and for the community, it's good to see other people doing that. So then we give them the option to be like I can be like the Darrell for someone else and be like, man, if he can do it, then I can do it. And I feel like that's the correlation.
Okay, so I'll piggyback off of Trevor. Can everybody hear me? I'm not sure.
You're good.
Okay. So I would say that my value comes in authenticity. So like being authentic, being myself. I feel like that's what's helped me navigate my life to where it is now. Especially I find like I've been in a lot of rooms where it has been uncomfortable. And I have been like the only Black person, but I find that by being authentic is how people are able to connect to me on a human level. I think another part of the question, if I'm correct, was about when did you realize your vision had impact? I have 3 instances for that. So my first instance was like, I was like probably around grade 3 and my grandfather died. And I literally wrote like a 2-page letter, basically explaining how sad I was. And I remember like, I gave it to family members and they read the letter, and I'm seeing like grownups in my family, like people that I see every day, and they're crying from this letter. So then that's kind of when I started to realize the importance of language and words. I would say the second time would be when I started facilitating workshops. When I started facilitating workshops, I feel like I got to connect to youth on a different level. And then I would find myself in rooms where teachers or youth workers would be like, they don't really necessarily think these kids would be interested in poetry or writing. But then like after me introducing myself, telling my story and where I'm from, and then reading off poems, I always give the kids a chance to write their own, and then they can either recite it to the class or recite it to me if that's more comfortable to them. And I had like kids in like grade 2 and 3 that were talking about things that nobody's ever heard them talk about. And when even afterwards, I've had like teachers and youth workers pull me aside and be like, you know, we're always trying to get that kid to write, and that kid never picks up the pen, or they're never inspired and stuff like that. And then I'm seeing them like basically pour out their hearts to me because it's relatable material. Like, we all experience grief, we all experience pain, we all experience anger, and those kids were connecting to that. And that's actually something I keep on my back wall, are some of those poems and some of those letters. I'd say a third instance where I started to realize that my vision had impact was about a year and a half ago. I got a call asking to be a part of a government working group for gender equality. And I accepted, but I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And I remember one of the first meetings where we all gathered, like people from all across Canada. And one of our first encounters, everybody was talking about how they knew about this, they applied, or their work or their organization sent them. And I was like, well, how did I end up here? Because I didn't know about this, I didn't apply or anything like that. So I asked the lady, I was like, how did I get here? Like, was there an organization that said my name? And she said, no. She's like, you were nominated by one of the ministers. And I was like, so then I kind of realized that sometimes I think that when I'm speaking in public, or even when I'm writing on social media, I'm thinking that, not a lot of people see that, but that was showing me that I did have impact, and it was reaching to like different places.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna have to no, I have to big up each and every one of those answers in a big way, because finding value on your own terms is a challenge. Like, it's one of the biggest parts of the journey. And then even being grounded in yourself as you go through it, as you've each spoken to, like, there's times when you're tested, whether you're physically confined or it's just like mentally you're confined, but you have to go through these things and these stressors, but you've all found a way to do it creatively, to do it, again, I want to underline, sustainably, because you're continuing to find more ways to build on the work that you've already done. So as we look at that, you've each spoken about, navigating, and how this space, especially as we're professionals growing up, but professionals specifically of African descent, you have to move a little different, whether it's talking a little different, but you got to bring your magic differently into these space, and that's intentional. And that also means there's a different intention behind that, right? Because you have to put more energy behind when you show up, how you show up, and as you've already talked about, the value. So that value exchange in these relationships for us, and you've already spoken about it, the mindset around it is different. So as we look at it, I really want to hit pause to get ready to, I guess, dive into this next set of questions focused on the business of self. Each and every one of you have, talked about not just value in terms of making money, but value in the relationships, value in the people around you. And so that is one of the biggest challenges that you can have as you're growing up and trying to grow your money is, who are the right people? What are the right opportunities? When to say yes, when to say no? So I want to pull back and hit pause for the question. The first part, which is, what is your mindset as you continue to navigate and monetize within your industries and work? So what is the mindset that you bring into your day-to-day to put you in that position to where you can take action within your industry, but within the work, because there's daily pulse.
Sorry, I'm paused right now, but what was the question again?
Yeah. So what is your mindset, if you can hear me, what is your mindset as you continue to navigate and monetize within your work and your industry?
Okay, so for me, like, I find my mindset is like back against the wall often, because it's either I find myself I'm maxed out, and I find for me that's kind of what motivates me the most as well. Like, so keeping that mindset even when my back's not against the wall, I find I figure out ways to keep my mindset with that, because that's what allows me to continue to grow and innovate. And during like the COVID time, when it first happened, it was like stressful times, because like back's already against the wall, and it's like, what am I supposed to do now? And I feel like when you realize that once your back's against the wall and you can make it through, then like it's kind of like going into like a deep dark depression, and you come back out of it, you realize that like I could have been in like maybe times in my life where I was like at the point of like suicide, but me coming back realizes that, hey, back against the wall or down and out, it's never down and out. You always have like the time, the chance to redeem yourself. As long as you don't hit the like eject button on life, then you always have the chance to like redeem yourself or make a difference or be able to come the best version of yourself. So I'm always in like a growth mindset, and I'm always in a place where even if my back, I try to find, like, even if my back's not against the wall, I try to find the hunger and the place where my back is against the wall, because that's what keeps me like thriving and grinding and making it happen. So I find when it comes to mindset, is like stay with the growth mindset, but always try to figure out how to make it so it's like, and I find what helps me with that is it's like I make the conscious decision to be like, I'm not gonna let this not work. If you know what I mean, like I'm making this work regardless. There's no way that this could not work, and it's kind of like a life or death situation. I kind of put it in, like back against the wall, but that's what kind of keeps me thriving and grinding. And like when it comes to like making an order, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm betting my last on this order, and my rent ain't even paid this month, so it's gonna be I put myself in that situation, but then it something comes out of me where I make it happen, I make it work. And it's not making like stupid decisions, because I try to calculate it as best as I can, but it's always a risk, and I always try to bet on myself. If you get what I mean, like when it comes to like mindset, it's like growth, betting on yourself, and just trying to find the things that keep you hungry and keep your back against the wall so that you can like make it happen regardless.
Critical pieces of insight. Guyleigh, yeah, no, I'll pass it on over to you. Just trying to highlight your screen there.
Okay. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if it went off.
Coming in loud and clear. Got
I
you
had
spotlighted.
I had like a sound problem. What was the question again?
Got you. So your mindset, focusing on your mindset. So what is your mindset as you continue to navigate within this space and monetize within your work and your industry?
I think my mindset has changed over the years. So I think like when I was first starting out, I was like in the hustle and bustle mode. So it was like I wanted lots of opportunities. I wanted exposure. I wanted to get myself out there. I wanted to network and put myself in rooms that like I wouldn't normally be in. And then like when the pandemic hit, I actually did the opposite. Like I would see like a lot of memes like where people would be like talking about like how through this downtime, you should be more productive, you know, like you should come out of this with a business started and like all of these things. And my mindset was actually the opposite in the pandemic. I actually took, well, we're still in the pandemic, but I took the time in 2020 to actually like relax. At some point, like probably towards the middle of the year, I actually stopped taking like speaking engagements or anything that had to do with work, because I didn't want to say yes just so that I could constantly, you know, represent and try and make sure that my community's voice was heard. I wanted to be intentional about like the projects and stuff like that I was making myself available to, and with the people that I wanted to share space with and work with and collaborate with. So I actually took that time off to kind of ground myself in trying to realign my purpose and figure out like what kind of things do I want to do in community, which is what's happening now, which is navigating different avenues and working with people, working with new people. So I would just say that in that it was just about being more intentional and just trying to connect to my purpose.
Hey, appreciate that. Corey, if I could, pass it on over to you, sir. We could try the video, but we'll make it work either way.
Yeah, for sure. What was the question again?
Got you. So in this, given everything we said, and no worries, after each one, I'll just re-ask the question once you want to jump in, just so that everybody's on the same page. But yeah, moving in these spaces and navigating, focusing on the business of self. What is your mindset as you continue to move, monetize, and navigate? in your industry and in your work?
Oh, that's easy. Just be better than yesterday. That's pretty much it, bro. That's exactly what I live by. That's my New Year's resolution every single year. Like that's the plan for me, to be better than I was yesterday, because no matter what's going on and who thinks what, like we are our own competition. We are the only one that we are battling with, because whether we think we can do something or we think we can't, we're right. And that's pretty much it. And like Trevor just said, he likes, like, when his back's to the wall, he feels okay, it's all or nothing, boom, down a note, stay down till you come up. And it's true, because I forget who it was, maybe one of you guys can help me out with this, but when they were warring back in the times, the Roman times and stuff, a sergeant or whatever you call him, general in whatever army, they went cross seas with boats to another place. And then when they all got off the boats, the sergeant burnt all the boats. And then his right hand man saying, why you do that? He's like, because if we got an escape route, y'all will want to escape. So right now we're fighting to live. We're fighting and we take this over, we live here. So, you know what I mean?
I remember that.
Who was that?
I feel like they ended. I don't remember who or what country it was, but I'm pretty sure they ended up winning, and it was like the odds were so far against them.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's in the 48 Laws. I'm pretty sure too.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, 100%. But yeah, no, that's pretty much it for me. Like that's what it is. Like, just try to be better than yesterday, and make sure you're humble, because the smartest man in the world or woman knows that they don't know anything. So if you think that you know everything, then you don't want to learn, and you're not open to people bringing you knowledge. You're not open to networking with people. Oh, I know this. Like it'll get tired after, a period of time. People be bringing you things to help you or whatnot. You're like, I know it, and it's like, all right, I ain't gonna say nothing to him no more, because he knows everything or she knows everything. You know what I mean? So like humility is huge too.
I appreciate the balance as you hit the multi layers of that. The next question, as I would love to kind of tee it up, still in that space of navigating the business of yourself, but navigating these professional environments, especially as a person of African descent. It's one thing you got to be a young professional, but then on top of that, a young professional of African descent, and then growing up through that, finding your balance, finding moments of pause, health, so mental health, physical health, all those things mean a little bit different. How you treat yourself, how you move in spaces, all the things you've talked about, each and every one of you, right? Like the balance of doubling down, but then also how do you not burn all the way out, right? And really testing your limits, but at the same point, you have to be mindful. And sometimes testing your limits is, at least what I found, is the best way to be mindful, because then you know what's there, and then you can push harder next time once you recharge and reset. And so this part of the conversation here, I want to really focus on, for each of you, what has the importance of self-care been as you've, been resilient, working towards your milestones and hitting these goals? What has the importance of self-care been? Corey, I'll pass it to you. You just got to take yourself off mute 1 sec and we'll be good to go. Not just yet. Can hear you now.
Okay. Now, see, this is touchy for me, because people are like, I want to just lead you with a question, like, what is professional? You know what I mean? Like, what standard is our professional? Because it's like, walk in with a suit and you do the westernized way of being professional, because you have these big companies or whatnot, and they're like, yeah, we want color, we want a diversity and all that. And then it's like, oh, but you can't have braids. Oh, but you can't do this. Oh, but you can't do so do you really want diversity, or do you just want someone that's Black or of color and that's it? You don't want them to talk the way they talk. You don't want them to look the way they look. You want to change everything about them. So, you know what I mean? Like me, it depends on like I won't show up to a meeting like late unless I'm testing the individuals that I'm getting ready to go into a relationship with. Like if I'm at a meeting and I'm late, then it's like, okay, I tested that. Like I'll throw lingo in there and I won't talk so conservative and so like just textbook. I'll use slang. I'll see where they are, like, because it's the same. It's like when you're going to interview for a job, you're not being just interviewed. Like you're interviewing your employer too. Like, do you want to work here? You know what I mean? But a lot of us, when we go, go to a job interview, we're in such a place where we don't have our finances right and none of that right. So we feel that they have automatically, as soon as we sit down, we give them all the power. No, because they're actually looking for workers. They need people. So we don't take that into consideration either. But I don't know. I just went on a tangent here, bro. I just get like that.
I
Man.
feel you though, but to add on to that is like when a lot of times when people go into interviews, they feel like what is I can't even think of the word, but they need something from you and you need something from them. And sometimes, like, this is the word, you go in the interview needy, in a place of needing this employer, and it kind of, like you said, it gives them the power automatically. But if you go in, like, say for example, you got 3 interviews that week, and 3 of the places you wouldn't mind working at either one of them. So when you go to those each interview, you're gonna go in there like more confident and more
100%.
Like, have more power. So like when you go in those spaces, you're gonna be more. I feel like you're gonna be more yourself, and that's one of the things that I feel like gets you the job. When every job that I ever got, I usually get it from someone I know, or I get it from just going in the interview and like not giving a F. Like you go in there and you don't really care. Like, not to say you don't care, but you're not trying to be someone you're not. You're being yourself, so it shines through. And I find when you're trying to be all this perfect and who they want you to be, you F up, and then you don't get the job, and then you're like, why didn't I get the job? Is because you're not being yourself. Like,
authentic.
And to just add on to that for you.
Yeah, no, 100%, bro. Thank you.
No, y'all are each touching on it, right? You're each touching on it because the dynamic is different when you head into a workspace, and especially in a lot of these environments, right, where they have certain standards or there's certain trade-offs. Yeah, you can be in here, or yeah, you can have these clients, but it has to be a certain way, right? So I think, even in my experience, right, the more hats you wear sometimes, right, the more experiences you can get, but at certain points, you can get caught in between rocks and hard places, or you can caught in like, all right, well, as you said, Corey, I'm testing the waters. I'm trying to figure out like what are the boundaries of this relationship, or how real is this person going to be?
Yes.
As we're all exploring this, the reality is like building your business, yourself, the business of yourself, as well as your brands and the other things that comes from relationships. Trev, just like you're saying, okay, I'm getting connections, so I'm getting able to not just build websites, but we're collaborating. We're able to double up or triple up our money. And that's not just about short term, but each and every one of you is talking about, okay, well, it's right now moves, and then it's a little bit longer term, and then it's, okay, well, how does this fit into the big picture? And not everybody you meet with or network with is going to fit into that big picture. Trev, you said at the beginning, like, how many millionaires do you know? How many books are you reading? Like, just starting to figure out these different things that, you want to test or check other people by, because you want to try to keep growing and learning. And you can only do that if you keep meeting other people. But what does that come down to? As you've all said, taking more risks, trying to err on the side of, saying yes, even if you feel like you might be at capacity, but you have to double down, and especially in this new COVID or digital era, right? But if you take the fact out of it, I know, part of the mindset, especially I would say myself, my brothers, not speaking for everyone from the culture, but a lot of people moving from the culture, right? It's like, you're playing, it's like, you know, you're not playing with the same cushion as other people. So it's like, you're not playing, as you were saying, to not lose, because losing is not an option. So you're playing and you're all in the whole point, which means you have to be more creative. Or Guyleigh, as you were saying, you know, you're pulling all these things together and building the speaking opportunities and building the networks and connections. But at the same point, it gets to a place where you have to hit pause and start to say, all right, what really fits into my big picture? How am I going to bring my best self if I'm spread across these different spaces and not all of these things fully line up, you know? And so I know you started to touch on that as well, Corey. Guyleigh, I don't know if we heard too much about it, but self-care, like what does self-care look like to each of you? And I want to hear more of that as well, because especially for Black people in these spaces in the winter, you know, but all of these different factors, like, especially for our youth, it's important to like understand self-care or like health. Like these are things that we have to talk about and normalize the conversation. But the same way, like you said, Corey, we're competing with ourselves to get better every day or to beat ourselves yesterday. And that's the same vibe with like self-care. We have to integrate that stuff, whether it's gratifications, your affirmations, things you're grateful for, people you love, just doing deep breathing, being outside. These are things we have to do daily, you know? So that's what I really want to hear from each of you. What are some of these things that you do daily? What does self-care look like to you? Even if it happens once a week, but what does that look like in your routines?
So,
Okay, Trevor, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Self-care to me is creating boundaries. I feel like at one point in my life, I was extremely accessible. And even through the pandemic, because I mean, we obviously weren't able to meet in person and talk to people that way. So then I find like, whether it was work, friends or family, everybody thought that you were constantly available 24/7, which could become overwhelming, especially with everything you're experiencing in the middle of a pandemic. So it actually made me realize that I needed to create more boundaries in terms of not being so accessible all the time. And another thing was to prioritize myself. I think somebody said this at the beginning of the conversation, but that you can't be good to others unless you're truly good to yourself. So that was another thing, like for all of the times where I'm working in community, where I'm working with youth, and where I am basically putting myself in all of these places or wearing all of these hats, and I'm being productive, while it feels good, I think that all of those things start to notice when you're not prioritizing yourself. And then it actually has a negative effect because it triples back on them when they don't see that you're prioritizing or taking care of yourself. So I think that thinking about myself more, thinking about my boundaries, in terms of like daily stuff, I try and set intentions with my day. I pray daily, like not just in the morning, throughout the day. I would say that I try and keep up with movement. So whether that's 30 minutes of physical activity or stretching, I try and do that. I even try and tone in on silence, because I think that's another thing, like constantly being around noise or like people talking. So I try to like silence my house and just sit in that and try and figure out what things are coming to me in those moments, like what things am I thinking about, and how I want to navigate myself throughout the rest of the week. I would say another thing that I'm taking into account in terms of self-care is last year, I actually had this New Year's resolution of you are what you consume, and not just in terms of nutrients, like in what you put in your body, but same thing like on social media, you know, what kind of content are you allowing in your life? What kind of people do you follow? Same thing, even with your inner circles, like what kind of people are you surrounding yourself with? What kind of things do you watch on TV or music do you listen to? Because all of that does influence your emotions and your mood. And so I feel like when you find yourself in those negative mindsets or those negative modes, you have to try and figure out and pinpoint, you know, out of all of those things, what are you truly consuming and how is that thing affecting you? And then make that change. Another thing that I learned through therapy, which was good because I love nature, was taking daily walks, especially during the pandemic, because you don't really notice it, but if you try and be more mindful and you tune in with nature, you can notice that things are changing around you daily. And that can serve as the reminder to you that whatever circumstance you're in right now, it's not the final stage. You know, you're going to keep going through the motions. It's just like the seasons. The seasons change, your circumstances are going to change as long as like things are happening, as long as you're creating that movement. So that's how I practice self-care.
Thank you, Queen. Trevor, I'll pass it over to you. 1 second, keep talking, and I'll spotlight you now.
Okay, just to piggyback on that, I would say when it comes to self-care, for me, like, well, it's wintertime now, and like being proactive, I feel like being proactive about your health and not wait until you're down and out, what I was talking about earlier, and just, you won't be down and out if you're proactive about it. So like when it comes to like taking your vitamins, like right now, we're not getting that much sun, we're not getting that much outdoors, so taking vitamin D, vitamin B, magnesium, and just taking supplements that we're missing out on when we get those vitamins in the summertime. So I feel like it's very crucial and proactive to stay on top of those things. Also for me is like meditation, prayer, gratitude. So like in the morning before I get up, I'll say thank you. I try to say thank you like at least 100 times before I get up, and I try to think about certain people while I'm saying it. Before I go to sleep, I do guided meditation. It's a like a non-conventional thing I've been doing for probably about since like 2016, 2017. And like every night I go to sleep, it's just like either positive affirmations or like a guided meditation. And I do this like I do it every night, so I can't even go to sleep without it some nights. But with it, I call it like I nickname my headphones that I sleep with. They're counterbalance. So like when you go on your phone, it's like called counterbalance. So like all the negativity or the things that I experience throughout the day, if they have been negative, this like counteracts it. So it's like all positivity flowing through to me or whatever like that. So I kind of find that that helps a lot. Like, and like it's a tremendous help for me anyway. Um, Exercise is really important. So I've probably been exercising for about 2 years now, and that's like a really good outlet for just stress. And it's good to like just to see yourself develop, get stronger. Like for me as me, I like to accomplish like certain goals. So like I'll put a goal up, like lift more or get to this certain weight. And I find like accomplishing those goals, I feel good. It makes me feel good, but also like the feelings that like just from just being able to stay active and stay mobile, that helps a lot. And then like Guyleigh was saying about being around positive people, good people, I find like not to like judge anybody, but like sometimes people like, and even me, I'm a victim of it myself, where like your energy could bring someone else down, and I kind of always try to be in a good space where I can uplift somebody, or like if someone calls me, I can be like their picker upper. But I feel like you got to know who your picker uppers are, like who to call when like certain stuff happens. Like someone that like I really look up to in the community is Carvel. And like if something goes on, like if I call him, he can make everything make sense, and like just give me peace with just like the certain things that he says. So it's like that's kind of like one of my go-tos in the community. And like you got to know who your go-tos are, who could pick you up like if you're down and out, and you got to be able to recognize when you're down and out, or if you're heading that way. And I feel like being proactive, like proactive is like the word to use. It's like just be proactive, because it's when you're not being proactive and you slip, then that's when the shit happens, when you're not taking care of yourself, you know.
Absolutely. Mr. Wright, Corey, you want me to pass it back to you?
Yeah, self-care is I'm actually going through that process right now, self-care, because my older cousin, he's like my brother. He's in a coma right now, and he's been so for the last few weeks. I've been going back and forth with the hospital, and talking by his bedside and stuff, and all the work that I'm doing and all these projects and everything. It's like I'm not getting no time, and I had like I can't even call it a breakdown, but I was just like sitting there like 2 weeks ago, and I just started crying. I'm like, bro, like you can't, like, yeah, he's in a place like this, but you also gotta get back to like you, because once it happened, I was missing meetings. I was like nothing made sense, because this is one of my brothers where like he's been always there for me, like older cousin, just see me, beat on me, boom, give me a couple bucks same time. Like it's like he's just, and it's like, man, and I'm thinking about death more. You know, I got my own kids too, so I'm like, and I'm thinking about my little brothers and little cousins. Are they gonna see me like that? Like just so much stuff going on. And that what helps me with that, and I'm still fighting it right now, straight up, is every day, wake up, just be happy I'm breathing. Just be happy I'm breathing. And then go from that and like a reflection, have a reflection on life, on every stage of life, that, you know, like all the stuff I've been through, what I want to get to, and then to try to combine them both if it makes any sense, on find the easiest path. Okay, I've been through this and I need to go here. So what did I learn from this that can get me here? Or just, I don't know, just that's just one of the processes. Uh Exercise, I don't work out too much anymore, because it kind of takes me back to being inside, because I used to work all the time. And when I get out and when I go to the gym or anything, when I'm pumping weights, it like takes me back into that mindset. And I feel like then I start being more like just worrying and more, you know, conscious of my body. And I'm like, right now, I don't have the time to worry about, oh man, I gotta get an inch and a half on my arms, or, you know, my abs down here ain't showing. I need the V, or, you know what I mean? Like I go to, so I jump down, I do some push-ups or something, you know, I try not to eat meat. I eat meat every, I don't know, like every 60 days or so, like a Mediterranean diet or something. But I don't know, like that's really it. Like it's mind, body, and soul, as Trevor was saying earlier. Like, and that's really what the self-love with me. But it started with communicating, like not holding my issues and my problems in, because we come from communities where it's like, you're a boy, why are you crying? Why are you crying? Men don't cry. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, I guess men don't cry. You're supposed to hold that shit in. And then, you know, like, and then it's the same with women in an aspect, like little girls, they baby them and listen to the little black girls. And then they get older, and then they train the black boys to disrespect the black girls. So now the black girl that was, you know, had so much love and shit, and now she's jaded and shit. Like, what the fuck happened? Like, I'm a black woman, I ain't getting no respect. So now she's angry. And it's not that she's angry, she's fucking hurt and upset and just really going off of passion right now. Like, why the fuck is she being treated like that? And it's all about our society. Like, we need to get past this shit. Like, we should have daily groups, weekly groups for black children that are struggling in school, that can't read, can't write. We should have support groups for single parents. We should have support groups for, you know, fathers that are trying to be in the lives of the kids, but mothers, some don't let them. And it's just like the way our culture is, it's so fucking, man, it's so weird when it comes to fucking mental health, because our culture is one big mental health fuck up. And we need to understand that and build each other up. Or like it takes a village, and it starts from the bottom and it starts from the top, because we need to, as the elders, and elders older than us, we need to take responsibility and not be like, oh, kids nowadays are fucked, they're blah blah blah, you know, they don't listen to their parent. But it's on us, and then the kids, we need to show them, Like we need to show them, like we're talking about networking and being successful and all that. But then you have songs out there, no new friends. Know that if you don't have a new friend, how you going to get to where you're going? Like, come on. And then you got the little kids soaking everything up. I don't need no new friends, fuck a friend. It's like, what? Are you gone crazy? Are you gone crazy? And then and the music is, and like Guyleigh said, like the music, like the vibrations, like they come at us at a frequency, and that's why a lot of it is double time now. The music is double time. Like there's certain beats are a certain way, and everybody's doing the same thing because that frequency hits us different. And we think that, oh, I like this song, this stuff is keeping me up. No, it's actually locking you into a frequency in just a repetitive mode. You can't grow out of that frequency. And yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so
I feel what you're saying, bro, 100%. I feel like that's one of the things that we lacked knowledge in the beginning. Like thinking back to when I was in junior high, listening to music versus when I got into university and I started watching, like, can't even remember what book or what video I seen, but it changed my whole perspective on music. Mind you, I still listen to certain types of music here and there because it's like reminiscing, but I protect myself from the music. And people don't realize that you have to protect yourself from the music and the environment in order to grow out of that. Because if you're listening to music that's talking about killing and doing all this different types of stuff to people, it keeps you in that low vibration, that low energy state, and it's not in a growth state. But you think like, oh, this is hard, this is real, this is whatever. But it's like, is it really?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is it what we're used to? And that's what's keeping us in this type of culture that keeps us down and keeps us out. And that's what I don't know if it's the powers that be or whoever wants us to be in that state, but like you said, it's on us to get us out of that. And I feel like that's the thing that I respect about you, is that you always, like Corey and everyone here actually, is like we take the opportunity to give and to build other people up and to compliment and to and like be like selflessly able to compliment and give the brother a heads up, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's what we need in society, besides like putting each other down or like laughing at this person because he got robbed by this person or doing certain things because of this. And it's like, you don't realize that that stuff ain't even like, people think that it's cool, or like, it's weird because we come from that culture, but then it's like, how do we change that culture?
Exactly.
Without being like, oh, you just don't know what you're talking about, or oh, you're not real, or oh, you're not this. And it's like, okay, so is you know what I mean? It's real to do this type of stuff, like, you know, and
like, because we've been programmed, bro. Like, think about it. We live in Nova Scotia. We have what's the percentage of Black people in Nova
2%,
Scotia?
2 to 3%.
There you go. So now we'll even make the area smaller. We're in Halifax, Dartmouth. So now that's probably a 1.7, the whatever, you know what I mean, percent. So then you're growing up and it's like, oh, well, where you from? I'm from Dartmouth. Where you from? Halifax. Oh, I can't fuck with you. What? Why? Why? The only thing that separates
you from OVT.
Yeah, the only thing that separates us is a bridge, and a bridge is supposed to connect people. So I don't understand. So now where we think we're going after a whole pie, we just cut off half the pie. Oh, you from over there. What? So now we got a half a pie we're going at, yeah. Oh, you from this area. Oh, you from the park. Oh, you from the pubs. Oh, you from here. You from the Bean. You from Churchill. I don't mess with you. So now the half a pie you had is only a fraction of
a crumb of a pie.
And it's like we need to come together.
And that can stem from, I'm not like a professional on this, but it stems from the divide and conquer rule, where like you divide the people and then like basically you got the people living in like you know, they just
100%. We stay in survival mode.
Yeah, you can't be like, even when it comes to like economic empowerment, you can't like you there's certain places where it's like a diamond in the rough where you can make it out by yourself. Maybe, I don't know, I never seen it done, but it's the people that come together, that work together, that enable the communities to rise and enable us as individuals to even come up and make something out of ourselves, because it's like we were saying earlier, it's on us as a community, as a people. And Not to say like we don't need any help from outside the community. We need help from outside. We need help from
We
inside.
need help from the government. We need help from wherever. But at the same time, they shouldn't come in and be like, okay, well, you guys need this. No, hold on. This is what we need. We just need a little bit of guidance or funds, if you will, from you guys to help us establish what we need. We might need a facility, a building, so we can incorporate and put everything here that we need to help our people. But we don't need you to come in as the great white hope and be like, okay, this is what you need. I'm going to fix all your problems. Motherfucker, please. Please.
No, biggest facts. And I want to jump into that even more because in the next part, we're going to talk about thriving and mobilizing. One of those bits is cooperative community economics. And I want to talk about that and what that looks like for mobilizing, but specifically addressing social issues. Because a lot of what we're talking about, and as it ties into self-care, talk a little bit more because a lot of these things are overlapping. But Guyleigh, I know you were dying to get them. I'm gonna pass it to you before, and then I'm gonna pick it back up. But yes, talking about it.
I just want to piggyback off of what Corey was talking about. So in terms of like mental health in the Black community as a whole, something that I find, especially in like younger Black children, or even us, I guess, when we were younger, is I don't think that they teach us about like emotional intelligence. Like they don't teach us about our emotions and then how to navigate those emotions when we feel them. I think that society has conditioned us to always chase joy. So then what do you do when you don't feel joy? We don't know. That's what kind of leads us to that place of feeling lost. So I think it's like we have to get to a space in community where we can normalize feeling other things. And then when we normalize feeling those other emotions, how to navigate those emotions. Because I find that even if we think of something like the violence that happens amongst our communities, it's the same thing. It's like not understanding that anger, let alone to put it in a different outlet or to do something new with it. Which leads me to my second thing for mental health, which is about therapy. When I was in university, I had a similar situation to Corey's. I experienced a close family member who was having a mental breakdown. And this was kind of like my first introduction to like mental health on like a real level. And watching them go through that mental breakdown and trying to be a support, trying to support family members that were involved led me to my own breakdown in university where I felt like I couldn't continue. I didn't know what to do. And then at the time, people were like, oh, you should go to therapy, university provides that, blah, blah, blah. So I did. I tried therapy at university, and it wasn't a good experience. So then it turned me away from therapy or thinking of therapists because I felt like I wasn't heard, I wasn't seen. I was talking to a little old white woman, and I'm like, she doesn't even understand like half of the things that I'm trying to express. So I kind of gave up on it. And then it wasn't until as of recent years, I was reintroduced to therapy. And same thing, I had another white therapist, and I thought to myself at the time, like, oh, maybe she's not going to be able to connect, but because of what I was going through at the time, she was able to provide different practices that helped me get through that period of time. The thing with a therapist is like having a good therapist is like when you're looking for a good hair person, a good barber, somebody to style you, like a beautician. Like you have to find somebody that like understands you, that gets you, and that knows your vision of how you want to move forward. So again, I think it's being able to recognize in that therapist or in those therapy sessions, how far is this taking me and how much further do I have to go? So at some point, I realized that with that therapist, I thought that she was good. I thought that she served her purpose. But then I realized I needed somebody that culturally understood me. So I found a Black spiritual advisor. And I found that talking to somebody who could relate to me, especially as a Black woman, really helped me navigate my thoughts and then create like game plans on how I would navigate the rest of the week and, how I would check in. And I do agree with like family supports, community supports, or even, you know, a circle of positive people, the only thing that I'll say to them, to those situations, is I find that even in the information that you share with those people, it's like there's only a certain extent that you can go. Like if you tell like your parents or whatever that you're having suicidal thoughts, because parents are worriers and, you know, you're their children and they want what's best for you, a parent can't let go of you saying that you have suicidal thoughts. So it's like, even on the days when you're feeling good and you're feeling better, it's almost like that person can reintroduce that trauma or those things to you, even though the thing is they think that they're helping, but they're not trained professionally to help you really navigate those emotions. And it just causes more worry. Whereas if you talk to a professional, they can help you navigate those emotions before they ever turn into actions. And it kind of goes back to even what Trevor was saying about like being proactive in terms of recognizing those things and acknowledging them. But yeah, I just want to say I'm an advocate for Black mental health, prioritizing yourself, and there's nothing wrong with going to therapy.
100%.
Okay, so a little mic drop on that. I mean, yeah, I wasn't disagreeing, but now I feel like I gotta also be like I'm also an advocate. Gee, for real though, it's critical, right? I mean, and that's just why I wanted to kind of hit pause and dive in, because you're all champions and you're all people that, you know, are visible. You're all people that are in, you know, are in these spaces in a lot of different ways. And at the same point, you're grappling with these real life issues, right? Family, people transitioning, people passing, or traumas and things that happen. And if no one talks about it the same way, like if you're not reading, how are you going to get access to this information? How do we know it's normal for Black men or Black youth, Black professionals, Black women to talk about these things if we don't ever hear it or see it? Like you can't. Seeing is believing. Hearing it, you know, and if obviously depending on the senses, you know, but hearing as well. If you hear it, you know, you can really buy into it. It becomes tangible. The same way being proactive, you know, and that's one of the biggest things, especially being on this journey, right? You're gonna get a lot of no's. You're gonna get a lot of people that, you know, want or, you know, have lots of asks from you, but might not support you in terms of, you know, on that value exchange. Yeah, I need you for this. Yeah, can you come help me with this? But when it comes back to you trying to have a voice or share your vision or your values, or even opening up, taking some of that armor off, it's not a two-way street anymore. And they get uncomfortable, or like, why are you telling me this? You know, or there's somebody else better to talk to. And so, you know, that's where I really appreciate each and every one of you really highlighting, you know, how it is. It's extra energy. It's extra time to navigate these spaces and to literally like show up. Right? Just to even highlight, going back what you said, Corey, because transitioning through this whole thing, you know, and as we're looking at thriving and mobilizing, that mindset piece comes in. And that's for me really how I believe, you know, being a professional is a mindset. You know, and this is the same conversation for how I was coming with the youngins in our program this morning. Being a professional is a mindset. It's not an age, it's not a title, it's not where I live, who I know, it's how you communicate, how you move, mix, and mingle, how you bring your magic into a space and connect with other people, how you build your relationships, how you make other people feel. That's really what being a professional is. I can, you know, people that are rich don't dress rich, right? They dress broke, quote unquote. Why? They still cutting them checks. They're still driving the car. They're still flying private jets. They're not worried about what other people are doing because they're still able to bring themselves. And they're grounded, and they know that everything they're doing is their headspace, right? And as we're having this conversation, you know, that's why I'm excited that each of you is touching on these these overlapping and underlying themes that, especially with Blackness, all these things intersect, you know, and at the middle of it, it's your human capital. It's yourself. You're the person that can decide how high you can go or how low you end up staying. There's a lot of external factors, right? We have no control over where we're born. You know what I mean? We have no control over the people that we come up around, but we have control with how we seek supports and how we learn and navigate. And absolutely, everybody gets their challenges. Everyone has their tribulations and the trials and the different things that, you know, really make it difficult for them to go through and continue getting back up, right? As a reality, we all have that. And we don't even get enough spaces to normalize that. You're like, yeah, when as you get older and people pass around you, it becomes tough as a professional to still have to send them emails or to show up to work. But also realizing like, yo, trauma or going through these things to try to have self-care also means that from a cultural perspective in our community, we grieve differently. You know, we have to hit pause differently. But especially when we collaborate with other institutions and they're like, well, you get 1 or 2 days, you get a couple hours, couple phone calls, you'll be better next week. I'll see you back. It's like, that's not how community is.
100%. Like
You know,
1 or 2 days, we didn't even start grieving yet. Like we didn't, like half the family didn't even come from cross country yet. You know what I mean? We still need to, not, I wouldn't say party for 5 days, but we still need to have.
You pause.
Are you making us work? Maybe take the video off, see if we can keep going with the audio and still pause a little bit.
To keep it going with what he was saying when he comes back. But I find like when it comes
like 5 nights of just social, just getting to know each other. How you?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about like when it comes to
Go ahead.
Oh, you want to go?
No, go ahead.
So like when it comes to grieving, I find like what helps us like in the Black community when it comes to like certain tragedies that happen is it is a process and it does take time, but I feel like what helps it is the family and the people that's being there for each other. It's so crazy how like just recently in the past 2 weeks or so, maybe 3 weeks is something that my family went through, and it was just seeing it in real time how the family comes together and it is there for each other. It makes the grieving process, and it makes you like, it doesn't make you whole again, but it even if you don't find the meaning in what happens, or you're not able to figure it out, or like be at peace completely, you're still able to grieve. And when it like the family comes together and there's so much love and there's so many people that come together, and I find that it's something about the Black community when we come together and we're there for each other, that like we can accomplish so much. And I feel like if we're able to use it in other ways besides like when the tragedies happen, and if we're able to come together like being proactive before a tragedy happens. And I feel like it's always when the stuff happens that it's already happened, but it's a beautiful thing to see how we come together and we can get through the tragedies. But what I'm saying is, like, how can we figure out a way that we can come together so that the tragedies don't have to happen in a constructive way, to where
100%, bro.
the love is there. Like how can we love each other when like how do we love each other before we, I don't know, it's hard to explain it, but I feel like Andreas,
I feel you. Like you're saying, like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is like, how can we love each other before the trauma happens where we feel we have to love each other?
Yeah, yes, 100%. You hit the nail on it right there. And I feel like we all do love each other, but we're scared to express it, and we're scared. And it might not even be the scared thing. It's maybe like there's no urgency for us to express the love. It's like people want to scream RIP and stuff like that when you pass away, but it's like, why you didn't tell me that you loved me when I was here? Why you didn't like be here for me when I needed you? Or like,
No.
I said,
oh, that's my guy. That's my guy. We're over here riding, and then it's RIP. Like, bro, if he was really your guy, you would have actually told him, why are you running around with this? Like, there's a whole world out there. Why are you repping a set that doesn't belong to you? You do not own this land.
yeah.
Get you, see the money that you're making and you're showing on the Instagram and putting the phone to your ear, the money phone. Take that money, buy some land, then rep that land. Rep that. Somebody want to come talk shit, rep your land.
I find it's like the miseducation, and that's why like often for me it comes back to the education, and it's like we have to kind of learn and understand so that we can teach and allow ourselves to like to come together with the understanding, to be like because there's so many people got different rules when it comes to even the streets. It's like Corey, you'll probably understand this. Like, who do you think won the Gucci Man versus Jeezy battle?
Oh yeah, really asking me, or is it just
I'm
like
really asking you, but then it's like there's so many different opinions on what's right and what's wrong, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and it's like the the miseducation and the misguidance that we have is like is what's affecting us
yeah,
in the long term.
Jeezy one for the grown man, you know what I mean? Like straight up, just trying to dead everything. And Gucci won or looked like a bitch to the street guy because he's like, why are you sitting there? Like, you know what I mean? Like he was hard or whatever about it, but I don't know.
Then at the end of the day, it's two people coming together, dead in a beef that can potentially save lives for the long run. But it's like, how do we get there in as a community?
100%.
Tying that back into the wider conversation, because I'm ready to pick each and every one of y'all's brains, right? But we're talking about education. We're talking about these disconnects. We're talking about systems. We're talking about value and self-care, and mindset at all of these levels, right? And the reality is that, just to kind of hit pause, just like, because we're all hitting on the nature of how history impacts, or of how things that come before us impact, where we're at now, right? And so when we're talking about even these cultural tensions, or things that are playing out in our communities, a lot of these aspects, or even the dynamics of when we're engaging with white organizations or other spaces, a lot of these a lot of people's mindsets are still directly tied and attached to like the plantation mindset, to the slavery mindset, where value is just labor, and the relationship is just transactional, and I'm just trying to get this money, and I need to get more of it, you need to get as little as possible, and then somehow this has to grow. And then even in community, that's a big shift, where like you're talking about the divide and conquer. This is hundreds of years old in terms of the with our people, just over the last 400 years as a snap. That's a process that's been practiced and refined to, as I said at the beginning, one of my beliefs, it's in the book, it's going in these other things, is that like everybody is a business. And so when you look at, people being sustainable, when you look at, as you said, education, health, being able to tap into your emotions and being aware of these things, and then being able to mobilize in your community, collaborate, and being able to put your money up with other people. A lot of these disconnects, right, come from, right, these challenges, these divides that are kind of created, right, artificially. But what it comes down to, right, is we're not clicking in to the fact that we already have access to power, right? We're coming from a mindset of scarcity. And so, a lot of it, especially in Nova Scotia, is, without trying to swear too much, no one travels. We don't travel. It's not a big part of, and I don't just mean like, oh, well, the reality, not everybody has access to like traveling with money, but like traveling with like what you are consuming, your content, trying to look at, trying to read, trying to explore different things, like tapping into different stuff. I know even myself, I had the privilege to travel internationally, but up until I stepped away from sport, a lot of that was through sport. And when you're traveling on sports, you're there for the sport. And you might watch some things, you know what I mean, before or after the game, but you're
there to party. You ain't there for no sport. You're there to party.
Get out of here. But a lot of times what I mean is like, especially in our culture, we really focus on the craft and we double down, so we miss out on the wider opportunities. And then we get to the end of things, we're like, listen, I'm burnt out, I'm tired. Like I've been, whether I'm at the top of my craft, but a lot of the time I've been isolating, I've been hustling on my own. And so, especially from a younger age, getting more of these conversations where we understand like, whoa, I'm one voice, but especially if I'm trying to address a problem, especially when I'm looking to mobilize. The more people I have around me, all of a sudden, I'm not just one voice, I'm 15. I'm not just $100, I'm 1,500. Just cooperative economics, community, all of those things tie back into being able to mobilize. So, I got a two-part question, and it touches on,
Say a point before you
said. The first part, I really want to highlight, what is the importance, whether you are an individual, whether it's a couple people, or you're an organization, what is the importance of cooperative of community economics. So, you know, if you don't know what cooperative economics or community economics is when multiple people, multiple families, individuals, or persons come together and put their money up. They pool their money, they pool their resources, so that way it compounds and you have more, a bigger money, bigger contribution of energy, effort, information that can grow. So the question is to each and every one of you, in your life or on your terms, but what's the importance of cooperative economics in addressing social issues?
So I would say is really important, but there's one thing that kind of has to get put aside when it comes to that is the competition. Everybody, I can't say everybody, but a lot of people feel like like the scarcity mindset you were talking about a minute ago is like people feel like because this person's winning, they can't win. So when it comes to like groups of people, it could be like, okay, this group of people is clicking up, this group of people is clicking up. So then it's like, oh, if they win, then we can't win. And I feel like that mindset keeps the people in the same boat. But when all the people come together and we're like, okay, well, we're going to overcome this either through financial, coming together, like knowledge wise, expertise wise, or what have you. I feel like that's what's going to empower us. And I feel like it's super important because like it's super important to get the competition out of your mind, to think like, oh, if these people are winning, like I can't win, and get that scarcity mindset out of the way. Because if you think like that, then you're not going to be able to like find opportunities to grow, find opportunities to help people, because a lot of people might be like, oh, well, if I tell this person this, they're gonna get it. Or like, for example, when it comes to like either if it's scholarships or bursaries, or if it comes down to like just giving someone knowledge that like if I know something can help somebody, I'm gonna give them that knowledge. But not everybody's gonna be in that place. They're gonna be like, if I tell them this, then they're gonna take my idea, they're gonna do this with it. And it's like, okay, well, if I share somebody like some intellectual property and they steal that, that's a different thing. But when it comes to me giving you a tool or something that can help you to get in a better place, like even when it comes for me, like I'm in the fashion industry. So anybody else that has a fashion brand, they can ask me any specific question and I'll help them with it, because I'm not hoarding no information, because any information I have, you can find it, and I'd rather be the person to give it to you. And then if I give you that information, you're gonna know, hey, he's not an asshole, hey, he's not trying to hold me back. But when it comes to you asking me specific questions of like, there's certain things that you can't ask another designer. You got to design, like, you know what I mean? There's certain things like some people might be like, hey, do this for me, but it's like, I can't do the work for you, but I can give you the game. And that's the point I'm trying to make. And I'm willing to give whatever it takes to give somebody the game, but it's also everybody in every industry. I feel like for example, like Cedric the Barber, to me, he's the best barber in the city. He's my barber, and I might be biased, but he makes videos on YouTube that shows everybody how to cut hair perfectly, awesomely, how he does it. And he's giving you the game, and you could take that game and you could become a barber like him, and you could quote unquote be competing with him, but he doesn't see it as competition, because he's in a growth mindset to where if I give you all the game I have, you're going to be able to go and be successful. You're going to be able to put on for whoever else, but you're not taking anything away from me. And I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people might think, that when they're putting other people on, that they're taking away from themselves, but they're not. They're allowing, they're planting other seeds to grow so that the community and everybody can grow. And that's like my spiel.
I shine, you shine, we shine.
Yep.
Big time. Guyleigh, give me a couple seconds. I'm passing it over to you. You should be spotlighted now. We can hear you. We can see you.
Okay, sounds good. So when I think of that, to piggyback off of what Trevor said, I think that we have to get out of this mind state that, and that goes back to everything that you were saying about divide and conquer, or even the slavery mindset, that only one Black person can be in a position at a time. And I think we kind of even let society condition us to that thing. Like, I think we're always thinking of like a leader, or we're always thinking of this one person being like the face of a movement or of a thing, but it's like, none of that is going to get us collectively to where we need to go. So I think removing that mindset that it has to be this one, or even like what Trevor was saying too, that only one person can shine at a time. It's like, that's even this year, I didn't even really participate in Black History Month, only in this panel because it was already scheduled. but I didn't participate. One of the simple facts was because same thing, we act like for Black History Month, we can only highlight like almost the same individuals or only one individual. And it's like, there's 365 days a year. If we're all claiming that we're Black all year long, there's more than 300 people we could showcase or we could highlight all year long. Like, it doesn't have to be this one person or this one thing. Another thing that I think about, and I was writing this down as you were talking. So for cooperative economics is it would create ownership in spaces we don't normally have it. It would create control over our own destiny or our success. And it would create diversity in our lived experiences and our knowledge. Because I think that's another thing, like whether society tokenizes us or we tokenize ourselves, we keep thinking that the idea of a Black person is the same thing all the time. And while we do share a lot of things in terms of our culture, we all have our own individuality. So I think that in terms of cooperative economics, the diversity aspect is showing that we all have different lived experiences or different knowledge. Like, that goes to show that we all add value to the table in a certain way. Another thing that I think about is a panel that I spoke on a while back, and it was about Black women. And I think one of the questions was like, you know, who is going to support Black women? And people came up with all kinds of different answers. And I thought to myself, why can't it just be Black people or Black women that support Black women? Like, why can't we start there? I think that's another thing. We always go to like the outside source first, thinking that that's how we're going to monetize or that's how we're going to build, rather than starting amongst our own networks. Like, one of the ideas that I thought of was like, even if you started small with a group of 25 people, it's like, if you start this group with 25 people where you guys all have this one collective goal and you guys all bring different things to the table, like, again, that diversity aspect of you guys all doing different things. When I launch my book, I already have 25 people that have my back, that are already invested in me and my goal. When Trevor launches something new for his clothing line, or Corey launches new music, he already has at least those 25 views. And then building on that, because it goes into almost the good customer service aspect. It was like, when good things are happening, people will talk about it more. So that 25 will easily build to 50, and then 50 to 100, and it will go that way. So it's almost like just thinking inside of our own circles first, validating ourselves, supporting each other, being able to agree to disagree, because that's going to happen. I think a lot of the times when we come together as Black people, we think that there only has to be this one idea or there's one agreement. And the people that say different things, it's almost like you see them get outcasted or they slowly move away from the group. And to realize that it's okay to have uncomfortable conversations and to continue to build those relationships or those networks, even if you don't necessarily agree. And I mean, even Trevor can tell you that, because me and him bicker a lot back and forth.
You silly, you silly.
No, big time. So I know at the tail end, time wise, but yeah, I wanted to, I guess, touch it in because tying all the things that we said together, right? I mean, one of the big points of this is, the balance. Everybody has to find their own balance. We're all juggling things personally, professionally, in life. A lot of the time you put on a mask or you put on the armor, you don't get to outlet those things to people, especially if you're Black or of African descent moving in these spaces. You have even less opportunities to be able to be vulnerable or to have someone really hold space. So I appreciate each and every one of you, like, highlighting the realities of what it's like to navigate these spaces, highlighting the importance of self, of taking care of yourself, but of finding the right people to be around you. Because at the end of the day, like you said, if we put joy as that thing up there, that we're looking to find and chase after, if we put money as that thing that we're trying to put up there and chase after, we're not grounded because we're still chasing after something else, and so I appreciate all of you talking about that. It comes into the routines. It comes down to how we're taking the steps every day, because when we zoom out, I'm a firm believer since I heard it, since I was challenged on it, but there are no little things in life because everything adds up. you know, each day. I might have took some L's, but you know what I mean? You win enough of those days, or you learn enough from those experiences that all of a sudden, boy, that's a week, right? We got a bunch of those before the year. Oh my goodness, right? And so all of a sudden, it's the work, it's the energy, it's the time, it's the commitment, it's the patience, you know, and a lot of time it's the stress that you had to endure. And so I really appreciate all of you speaking so freely about that, because, you know, the reality is that everybody is carrying some baggage, you know, and one thing I think, especially for gratitude, I'm starting to push myself even more just to be grateful to, you know, for some of these stresses as well. Like, yo, I could be feeling this stress or more stress and have way more problems and way less ability to move and build momentum. So I'm very grateful for each of you giving your voice this evening. I want to open it up just to see if there are any questions. I'll check the chats as well, but I know we went a little bit over. So I appreciate everybody's patience as well. I know you posted all your links in the social media and the website. So for questions and other things, we recorded this, so we're going to make sure that we engage and bring some of these insights into the schools. Of course, I have to filter and balance out some of the language, but it's needed and we have it. So it's good. It's good. But yeah, give me a couple seconds to check a couple of the chats. What I'd ask for the attendees before switching back and forth between the platforms is just make sure you type in the chats, and your question needs to be made available to either the panelists or panelists and attendees so everyone can see. I'll give it the next couple minutes before I invite each of the panelists just to give us a 1-2, you know, little sign off, but a little note to the audience. But before we get there, I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of time. I'm just getting a couple questions that get sent to me, so hold on. Get your moments of pause, get your thinking hats on. Okay, the first question, I think this is just open to all the panelists, so whoever wants to jump in first. Well, you've all talked about a lot of things, you know, personal, professional, the mental health side. But as you look at it, stepping back, on your journey of life to this point, what has been the hardest thing for you to overcome? Whoever wants to jump in. I didn't make the question, so that's tough. Take it wherever you want.
I'll start. I think the hardest thing for me to overcome this far would be self-doubt. I think that a lot of the times, like, even when you're trying to level up or you're trying to put yourself in spaces that you're not normally in, you question yourself. And you know, I think I've seen this today, actually. I think I've seen somebody talking about this today. But it was that we are our own worst enemies. And that is the truth. Like, a lot of the time we think of the world as saying all these things or doing all these things, but a lot of it we've internalized and we say and do to ourselves. So it goes back into that self-care aspect and prioritizing yourself and affirming the things that you need to say. But I think that that's definitely one of my biggest challenges is like, no, sometimes like I know that I'm capable, but then it could be like right before I'm ready to do the thing that I just I leave that space open for that self-doubt to enter. So I think just constantly reassuring and reminding myself of who I am so I don't let self-doubt take over me. But I'd say that was one of my hardest challenges.
Greatly appreciate that.
So for me, one of the, like, I would say two of the challenges would be, one was just finding my value, like knowing my worth. Like when I first began my business, it was like people were like, oh, you wouldn't be able to sell this and that. And I always wanted to have like high quality products, so the prices would cost me a lot, which would go like to the consumer, and me kind of believing in myself to believe in, okay, well, this is the value of my product. That would be one. And then the other like major thing on the journey was when my best friend got murdered back when I was 21, he was 20, and it was like a thing that kind of stopped me in my tracks. But through like, so he had a son that was yet to be born before, like, once he passed away, and then it was my godson. So what got me through that was my godson became one of my like driving purposes in life, and I found like I had to find the meaning in it. So what I did was, so he passed away and then his son was born. So the analogy that I use is something from the Bible that like the father, what was the analogy? It's basically the son is reborn. So now I'm able to be the father figure for the son, and I have a responsibility to be there for him in a way that it's on me. Like I have that responsibility. So I use that as power for me to fuel my dream, and so that I can make a better life for him. So I can be maybe the father figure he never had. So that basically it's like my friend being reborn, and I use that as fuel. Like when before it kind of put me down a note, like in the dark place I was talking about earlier. And like it was the hardest thing that I went through, and it made me realize that you can get through anything. And the key takeaway from it for me is just to find the meaning. Like find the meaning, like look for the meaning, and then when you have that meaning, utilize that meaning and let it like skyrocket you. Let that energy and that power propel you towards success, so that you could be a better person. And I find like through that I've been able to become a better person. I've been able to like find forgiveness in places that like you would never think that a person could find forgiveness. And that's like one of the things that I like. So the value, the tragedy, and then the finding like the forgiveness and using that to your advantage in a way. So like finding the meaning in everything.
Appreciate that. Mr. Wright, if I could pass it on over to you if you want to jump in.
Yeah, simple, criminal record.
Yup.
Oh, okay, let's work here. You hear me now?
Got you.
There you go. Mine would be criminal record.
Which
And
is
that's
reality.
that's it. And I just want to like leave it with that, because you got all these guys that are coming up in the street games, the life, and they feel like going to prison would like, I don't know, solidify them in the streets or making them real. But at the same time, all it is just another way for them to tell you no. Like it's hard enough being Black and being told no, but when you have a criminal record, it's like, oh, we would help you if you didn't have the record. Would you really? It's just another excuse. So if you don't have one, don't get one, because it ain't good. Because you'll spend so much time of your life trying to fight through it.
Right.
But I don't know, I look at it as a blessing as well, because it also helps with the creativity, because when there's a will, there's a way. So catch 22, I guess.
Good night.
And again, touching on the real, right? Touching on the real, and in all aspects, you know, the realities of having some of the, you know, not just boundaries, but structures, systems, things that don't work in our favor. And then, you know, when you go through life and you make decisions, you try to make the best decisions at that time or at that moment, for self, professionally, you know, and constantly having to go and compete with other people. And that's part of the challenge of being in this new space, you know, as you said, especially with the record on top of it. But at the same point, you know, just like with the Blackness, there's a lot of pressure on us, right? And we don't get to choose it. It doesn't necessarily, that doesn't get easier, you know, but you get more creative, you get more innovative. It's the same way, like when you have your back against the wall, when you have nothing to lose, you know, when we get in these spaces, we move different than people that have been in these spaces. Why? Because we come at it from a different way. And back to the, you know, even the mindset, the professional element. When you show up into these spaces, when you use your voice, you're bringing a different sense of value. You're speaking more groundedly. You know, each and every one of you, but as well, you know, Corey, what you're saying. And there's a reason for that, you know, and I'm a big believer that, you know, and at least this is how I try to cope with certain things for sure. But it's like, yo, we go through these things so that way somebody else doesn't have to down the line. You know, we're getting these experiences so that shit, I hate this. It sucks. I don't know why I'm going through it. I'm tired of going through it, right? And it sucks, but okay, well, how can I, and maybe that's just because I would say like, I'm forever an optimist. I don't know if you have another choice, but it's like we going through these things and it gives us more language. It gives us more experience to speak through and to speak to and engage other people in these relationships, because, a lot of these struggles and a lot of these challenges have also given each and every one of us the opportunities for, what I would say is the color. We got the program, we got the schedule, but it's the different experiences that you get on your life that add the character, that help you get some of your magic, that help you explore these things. And I think you're all highlighting, right? I mean, for me, I'm a visual person, so I just really feel like it's like everybody's born into life, like a puzzle, and you all have your own puzzle pieces, and you have to spend, maybe it's with people over here, or you try to go travel over there, and some people maybe earlier on get to uncover them puzzle pieces, and they say, oh damn, all right, well, this is what the picture looks like. All right, let me focus on this area over here. Some of us, when we're younger, we go all over the place and we're like, dang, I don't really know what this picture looked like, but I got edges and I'm gonna stay somewhere in here, and it's finding that balance of, all right, I'm in here, I don't know for how long, and when tragedy happens, it's crazy, just like you said, Corey, like it changes perspective of how much of a construct time really is, and nothing is guaranteed, and so it's like, well, we're here, how can we grow, how can we experience things, how can we make those around us better, and each and every one of you, like I said, I'm very grateful that you've joined us. I'm forever grateful for the insights and the relationship outside of this, and this included, because the things you spoke about today as well, are conversations that we're having in the classrooms or in these different spaces with the youngest, the junior high and the high school students, right? But at the same point, this is not conversations and spaces that they're getting to outlet with, and even at the young professional spaces, so being able to convene more of these, being able to highlight more people like yourselves, and allow them to see the journey and the stories, and that you can be successful navigating on your own terms. It might take you a little longer. You might have to go a wider route, but it's possible. And being able to see people like yourselves lets them know that it's possible for them. So I really appreciate each and every one of you joining this evening. And to our attendees, I appreciate you all joining us as well, but more formally, Mr. Trevor Silver, Miss Guyleigh Johnson, and Mr. Corey Wright, I'm forever grateful for you joining us this evening on the Economic Power panel discussion. We'll tune in with you. I'm going to make sure that everyone has access to your accounts, and we'll link to follow up later, but enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. And thank you so much for your time and energy.
Thanks so much for having me, brother. Good to see y'all. Happy to be on the panel with y'all.
Same, thank you. I appreciate you guys as always, and I look forward to connecting with you after this.